Hi, I'm Marleen. I'm 32 years old. I'm from Germany. I grew up in a middle-class family in the north of Germany and had always a bit of an adventurous side to me. So I broke free to go to Australia when I was 19. Discovered Australia for a year as a gap year. And then I also lived, the last 8 years I lived in London. I always wanted to discover different places and countries. I needed a very drastic change in my life, so I left London and decided to come to Thailand in January. I was initially meant to go in December, but COVID struck me, and then I waited for a month to come here finally. And I bought a one-way ticket, so I don't know how long I'll be traveling for. So my adventure began end of January, and I have in total 120 days here in Thailand, and then I'll probably move on to different countries and discover. I think I'm on a journey to find myself a little bit. I wasn't doing well mentally at all in London towards the end of the time, and I hope to find new inspiration here and kind of just want to see how I feel in the moment. And I didn't really set myself a goal for how long. I just knew I needed a one-way ticket and not set myself any limits or anything that would be planned kind of thing. And I've heard so much about it, and I heard that I've never been, apart from Sri Lanka, I went for the first time 2 years ago, but I hadn't have any experience in the Asian culture. And I know that a lot of people go to Thailand and as their starting point and then make their way around the rest of the Southeast countries. And so I wanted to do that and kind of just see where it takes me and see how I like it, because as I said, I was a bit worried with the culture, if maybe I don't feel good, or the food, or I don't know what I was worried about, because none of it had happened, but I had a lot of fears in me before. But I thought Thailand is a nice way into the experience and then take it from there. Heard from when I was in Australia for my gap year, a lot of people arrived there, so that was over 10 years ago. A lot of people came to Australia going via Southeast Asia, so they were always swooning over their experiences, and I always knew in the back of my mind that I wanted to do a trip to Southeast Asia, and I didn't want to. I could have probably went while I was working and go for 2 weeks, 3 weeks holidays, but I knew I wanted to do it as like a package and really like immerse myself. And I think a little bit like I've waited this long because maybe subconsciously I wanted to wait for like friends to join me or maybe a partner. And with Sri Lanka, that was the first time I went into a different culture by myself. Like I traveled a little bit in Australia by myself, but mainly with my ex-boyfriend. Or boyfriend at the time, and so I knew kind of that I could travel, but Australia is very similar to Europe in a lot of ways, and so Sri Lanka was the first time I was on my own, and that went really well. So I think I got confidence from that experience, and then I think also I got tired of like evolving my life around other people, like of the potential of meeting people to travel with. It felt like I was putting my life on hold, and I kind of wanted to prove to myself that I can live a fulfilled life and do everything that I want by myself. And so I think that was an important important part for me to just do it, But it was very very different to go this time than maybe the times that I traveled before, because even when I went to Sri Lanka, I had still my room in London in a flat share, and I sublet that for a bit, and I had my job to come back to, and same with Australia. I mean, I went for a year, but I knew I could always come back to my parents, and yeah, so this time I gave up everything, and that was such a scary thing, because to cut off the last security that I had with the job, you know, it was a good job. I was comfortable. I liked my boss a lot, and you know, but I did get a little bit tired of it, because I think I reached the maximum that I could reach there in terms of the promotions, and it didn't feel so meaningful anymore to me. So I think when COVID came along, and the 2 years, they were really hard for a lot of different reasons. I think I really had an identity crisis, like I'm sure a lot of people had, where I feel like we built our identity on different pillars. And for me, if I, in hindsight, look at that, it's one pillar was the party me that liked to still go out a lot and drink and be fun. And then the other part was probably a little bit like a work identity, of where I also traveled with work, and I could take that also serious. Never, like I kind of never made that a really big priority in my life, work, but it was important enough to be kind of partly an identity. And then I think also the travel identity, like as I said, I traveled a lot in my life, and so that was for sure part of who I was. And so when all of these things with COVID just got taken away, I was left with a lot of nothing, like everyone. And I think I had to find out who I was outside of these things, and life became slow, and there was a big void, and that void wasn't so easily filled. So I went on a big journey to discover myself, and I realized that I went to therapy, and I realized a lot of things and so I think from that on, I started experimenting with a lot of different things. Like I started yoga and more sports, and read a lot of books. But I think the biggest part of that was the therapy and learning about myself. And also really, I have a passion for psychology and self-development. And the more aware I got of myself, the more I realized how unhappy I was, and that a lot of the party identity, that there was probably a part of my life where the fun part of where I really enjoyed that kind of became an escapism from my reality. And I think I missed the switch of when that happened. So I kind of got stuck in this cycle of partying, and I don't know. So I really got to a point where I hit rock bottom in London, and just really couldn't see the meaning of things and the purpose of things anymore. And I just knew I kind of needed a drastic change. And I also got really stuck in the decision, because I had lived most of my adult life in London, and I really felt very home there for a long time. I felt there was a lot of things that resonated with me more, like the way of being with each other, than maybe sometimes the German culture. And and I missed like 8 years of living in Germany, so I don't even really know how the life there progressed in some ways. So I kind of felt really torn between the two cultures or the two countries, and I had this feeling of like I should move back to Germany because my family is there, and I actually never left Germany with the intention of never coming back. But at the same time, it wasn't drawing me enough, and I just got really stuck with that. Like, should I stay? Should I make the official decision that I will live in England forever, or for a longer time and settle down there, or will I go back to Germany? and be closer to my family. And I felt strongly that I needed a break from both to kind of get distance to, will I miss England a lot? Then maybe I'll go back. Or am I actually being okay with being away from there? And I think more than anything, I got stuck a little bit with, stuck is a harsh word. Like, I found it hard to get inspiration because I think in London the life is very focused on progressing in the career and running the rat race, as they say, just being busy all the time. There's very little time to reflect. It's a lot of alcohol all the time, which also I was growing out of a little bit. And so I think for me it was naturally coming, like things were coming a little bit to an end, but I think I needed a big break from everything to kind of see. And so for me it felt like going away and finding that inspiration, because it's hard to meet the same people in London all the time. You don't get any other alternative lifestyle. And I think I really wanted to meet people that don't fit into that 9-to-5 working life a little bit, that live their life and create their life in a different way, and I didn't find access to that in London. So, I'm 32. I don't know if I want to marry. I don't know if I want to have children, and these things are like probably starting to be expected in my age, and I find it hard to find alternative lifestyles of where I see examples of, or even traveling. Like sometimes I'm here and I think I'm so baffled that this is my life now, and then I'm like thinking, I'm probably just in a bubble. Like, this is a little bubble, but at one point I will have to come back to reality. And then I'm thinking, well, hold on, who says this could not be my reality? Like I could travel for a long time or settle down here somewhere, or and I like the openness of it all. If I could find, I think I've met people that were kind of definitely branching out. Like I have amazing friends that live in a polyamorous relationship, and I have friends that live on a houseboat, and also quit their jobs and just live there for a bit. And there are definitely, I found some great people, but I think the general lifestyle, I felt a little bit lonely in London sometimes, even though I had a lot of friends, because I think we all do this thing where, I felt like that in London, this overbooking, not prioritizing your life. And I read a book about minimalism and how you can apply that to every part of your life. And I think sometimes in London the mantra is the more people you get to know, the better. And I don't think we, or a lot of people understand that it means that you're trading off existing relationships. We don't have unlimited time available. So if we commit to so many things in advance, like we won't have time to see our good friend anymore or have any flexibility if someone is down, or the quality of the relationships will suffer. So I think I realized, even when organizing like my leaving do for London, like I had 3 different dates for different little activities to say goodbye, and there were like some friends that couldn't make it to any of them. To be fair, it was December, but like it's just a symbol, I think, how the life in London was a little bit very, very busy, very full of things, and that was great in my 20s, but I think I'm really enjoying the calmer lifestyle, the more simple lifestyle. It very much was the more the better, the faster the better, in London. To actually come to terms, I guess, with needing a therapist, I was always the one suggesting that to my friends. Like my family has My parents went to therapy together. They were broken up for 8 years when I was a child. My sister went to loads of therapy, and I felt like I had this, I don't know, I never felt like something was wrong with me or not even wrong, but I felt very healthy, that I didn't have to fix anything. And I realized that wasn't quite true. Like, I had things to fix, or to look at least myself. So yes, I realized that. So instead of giving all my friends the energy, I was always there for a lot of people around me and listened to them, and I realized I neglected myself a little bit over the years. So for me that was a hard thing though to accept, that now it's the time that I need to look at myself. And then I think I started reading books about different topics, from the inner child work to attachment theories and loads of things like that. And whenever I was reading them, I was really reading them very aware and trying to reflect on if there's anything for me to take away from that. I think it started kind of opening things up. Like I would feel like, oh, this is a topic that's speaking to me. I didn't know I had a problem with that. Like boundaries, for example, was a big one for me to learn how to set boundaries, how to communicate them, how to accept them when others set them, things like that. So, and then I was like, actually, there's certain topics that I can't. I felt like I needed a little bit of guidance because I had all these topics and in my head, or issues that I wanted to look at, and it was like a big kind of mess a little bit, and I wanted to have a little bit more structure and guidance on those topics. So that's when I reached out to therapy. Left London, so basically just really the last session was like the Tuesday before I left. So I saw a therapist, and I think in times where I'm normally quite good in reaching out to friends, so I'm not a closed book, so I had also a lot of support from the people around me in that time. But with the therapist, it was just good to have someone independent that just gives you, unconditionally their time and support. It wasn't like entirely the right fit, but I think in the end, if it was just to have that hour reserved every week to go inside and internally and find out, to get some prompts, and it was good to make that time.
Let's make a pause maybe.
Do you want to say bye? Can we have a little short break? Yeah? Are you coming to say bye?
Yeah, I mean, we're in the bathroom.
Okay.
But more or less communicate.
Yeah. It's finally stopped raining.
That's why we're saying bye.
Yeah. Should we stop for a second? Yeah, okay. I left London, and I cut a lot of, I think it was such a long process to actually leave, and my boss offered me like a deal, and there were a lot of kind of tests to keep me there, and it really took so much effort to really go, because as I said, I had lost a lot of identities already, and so in some ways it seemed like the perfect time to go because I was already so unrooted in myself, but in other ways, like I think even living in London, that was also like the German that lives in London, you know, I don't know, I think it becomes part of your identity as well. And the job, as much as I was maybe also coming to an end with it, was also something that still meant something to me, and I worked there for a long time, so it was comfort too, and it was really hard to let all of that go. And I think it happened that a lot of, like, some friendships, I felt like I had changed so much internally that I already felt a little bit alien in my own life running up to the departure. I started feeling like I wasn't really fitting in that much anymore. And I think I had so many good years with my friends, and we were a big friendship group, and I loved that. I never had that before, and we were very welcoming, and we were like also people from all over the world. But a few of my friends had left to their home countries before, and I realized that after they left, for me, it never really was the same anymore. And I think, I felt, as I said, sometimes lonely, but I still have really good friends. But as I said, also the time you actually get to spend with each other sometimes, it was just maybe not that authentic anymore. My interests were going away a little bit from partying and more into self-development and doing healthier things. And if you are surrounded still by people that want to have party as their priority, it was also the last thing then left. But it kind of also, it was just a big journey, because I initially waited for 2 years, for example, for the clubs to open again, and they waiting to kind of resume my old life. But when the time actually came for that to happen, it was like, oh, okay, I'm actually not really enjoying that anymore. So it was both. It was okay, it was kind of okay, because a lot of things were unrooted already, but at the same time I felt like I was chopping off the last bit of what made me. And so this time it felt harder to go and not know where to go after. And although, like, I still have my things in storage in London, so I could go back. But I also actually realized, since I've been here, that I'm not gonna go back to London. So I did, and it's still a process. Like, it was so me, and it was so my home. It was a city that I know so well, and I did a breathwork session in Koh Phangan here, and it was the second session that I've ever done in my life. And it was also me exploring different options and different ways of healing, I guess. And with breathwork, you can access blockages and emotions that you pushed away, and then they come out. And a lot of people in those sessions cry or laugh or scream, and it's a space where emotions are very welcomed. And so I did that, and I really started crying a lot. And I realized that it was I still was grieving the loss of that life a little bit, of that chapter. That's over now. I'm not very good with things coming to an end. So I realized I'm still like struggling a little bit with the goodbye of it, but I know that I will see the core people there with me, and I have contact with them, of course. But I think a lot of experience that I made here, they feel so much more authentic to me. I'm really discovering my spiritual side, and I've put myself so much out of my comfort zone here, like whether that was riding a scooter for the first time, or just traveling by myself, or trying new foods, or I did scuba diving, which was also really tough and really challenging for me, and I really had to overcome my own mind and fears and panics and anxiety and things like that. And I feel like I in some ways, by leaning into my insecurities or vulnerabilities, I became a little bit stronger, or let's say more confident now in myself. And I just love discovering new things and really challenging myself. I think like just even things I didn't know. I never danced before. I love dancing, but I never danced sober, for example. And again, in Koh Phangan, I did an ecstatic dance session, and it was no drugs, no alcohol, and I learned that I can let go around people if it's a safe space. Like, I don't have any insecurities or block my own movement, but with myself. So that was a big one for me to kind of experiment with. I can be quite outgoing, and I don't really need alcohol, for example. That was like something that I discovered. But apart from that, I'm looking in all places really of who I am, and I guess being here in this retreat and meditating. One of the last things my therapist said to me was, because I have a thing of where I think I make myself stronger, and sometimes I do that by blocking off the weaknesses or something. Even though I'm quite vulnerable, sometimes my way is to just push the vulnerabilities away, or like to use this trip kind of, I think that was an element of me trying to prove to myself I'm strong by doing this. And she said, because we opened myself up in the therapy, and she said, I'm worried about you going to Asia, because I hope that you're not just trying to be strong all the time, but that you keep leaning into the vulnerabilities. And I said to her that this trip very much was not just about that. I did want to keep healing myself, and I wanted to explore different options on different ways of doing that. And I feel that with the meditating just learning more about myself, I become even more self-aware and wholesome as a person. And if I can take those things back, like some of the techniques that I've learned here, they give me meditating it feels like it's this own little tool that I have in my pocket, that if I ever move back to Europe or I'm in stressful situations, I feel already a little bit calmer, knowing that I can just meditate anywhere I want and find that peace in me. And I think this trip will always be part of me now, and my identity, and the things I learn, and an inspiration that I get. There are like younger people that inspired me. I'm in hostels. I'm more on the older side, but there are also older travelers, I'm still hoping to find. I know that I need a career change at one point. And I think I'm preparing myself a little bit by also doing all these things, because I want to be going into the direction of being a therapist myself. So I think to approach everything as a more holistic thing, where the healing doesn't just, because therapy itself is head-based, it's very much in the past, and sometimes, it depends on what therapy you do, but I think here, just to even go through the village here and see with my own eyes, to have a more simplistic lifestyle, or really doing the meditation to know what the benefits are for myself, then in the future that could be helpful also in me being a therapist or something. Yes, I've tried mushrooms before. Actually, in London for the first time when I was on my 31st birthday actually. And yeah, it was a big experience for me, for sure. I think it just opens you up to seeing. I do that already, but it was like even in a whole nother level to appreciate nature. Everything is just this little bit brighter, and it's like you see the world through a filter, and you almost wonder maybe we just see it all like more numb. Maybe that's on mushrooms is actually how you should see the world, because it's so beautiful, and I feel like it makes you humble. You appreciate the nature so much, and in some ways you become so small as part of the bigger world. And I think it can really be that reset button. Yeah, to reset a little bit like meditation. It's like, okay, you open yourself up to this experience and you go with the flow, and then yeah, every trip changes you a little bit, I think. Yeah. I think even knowing now that my profession that I've chosen is not really the one that I want to continue to do, I still would have done it the exact same way, because I don't think I want to ever have regrets in my life. I'm very much a person that, goes with the flow, and if I feel like in that moment that's where it draws me, then that's the right decision in that moment. And so I want to trust my instincts a little bit, and yeah. So I think I did this job. I also, like, I had a break from it. I quit my job before because I was doing modeling, and I just decided, yeah, I wanted to do that, and I just went after. I just questioned myself, would I regret never having tried it? And I decided that I would have regretted that more than continuing. And there were also worries like, oh, what will a gap in my CV looks like? How will I justify it? Like, it's so often so decided by the society what the right way is, and to go a little bit against the grain is hard. I think I feel the same way about this decision now. I think some people would think, oh, you're 32 and you're going traveling, and but yeah, so I don't, and the same with this, like, I have no regrets about, like, actually I have not a single time since I came here regretted my decision. With all the worries and everything I had before, I'm completely at peace with where I am right now. Yeah.
So you are already in the flow mode?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I overthink things a lot, but yeah, I overthink things, but in the end, when I then come to a decision, then I'm trying to be at peace with it and not question it in hindsight. And I think all the different little jobs that I've worked, they've given me, I worked also as a backpacker in Australia, and during the time when I had quit my full-time job, I had to earn my money somehow, and I worked from handing out flyers to working in bars, cleaning hostels. Like, I've worked at McDonald's. Like, I really have worked so many different jobs, and that probably makes me part also of who I am. And I think it's actually so important to have that kind of life experience. I think those jobs gave me a lot of life experience, and also to know where to put my boundaries with work. How much do I let that take over my life? How important is it? So I think, I wouldn't change it, because I think I had to become the person. I had to let these things grow, and I think if I will become a therapist at one point, all these things would really benefit me to know. Because when people would tell me about their long work days, like, I didn't just come out of uni and then sit there with them with no life experience. Like, I will be able to relate to them and know that it's one thing to kind of say, oh, don't work that much, but it's another thing to be in it and feel like you don't have a choice, or So I think it makes everyone makes the decision that they make, and
That's very cool to don't have any regret. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, it was a question I had, like if you had to convince someone to have the flow mode, what do?
I think it's a fine line with the flow. Going with the flow is also easier said than done, and sometimes probably also not. It's not. I don't think it's the solution for everything. I think you just need to come to a point where you know what the right thing is for you. I think that's maybe what I mean more with the flow, rather than with the flow, because it's so easy to say, oh, I'm gonna drop out of uni now, or I'm gonna stop doing this job. But if you need to have some confidence, I guess, also with yourself. Like I know for myself that if I wanted to, I can pick up any job. If I run out of money, I won't starve. I also know that I have a family that I could always return to. So I come from a privileged point of where that's maybe a little bit more possible. But not. That's not always the right thing, maybe either. I've waited up. I waited and I thought about it for a long time. It wasn't just a quick decision. I knew what I was getting myself into, and I think that's the key thing with the flow, is to weigh up the consequences either way, like with everything. Be aware of who you are impacting with that as well, and what it means for the rest of your life, or for that moment, or if you don't have that confidence, I think it's such a mixture with the confidence of this flow state, or to weigh your options. I think it's a mixture of, it's so hard to say. I feel I'm learning to trust my gut instinct a little bit more, but I think it's a lot of questioning yourself. It's a lot of questioning your motives. Like, I had to ask myself, when I was so tempted by the offer that my boss made me, she offered me to do like 4 weeks unpaid holiday and go away, and then come back, work a little bit more, and then potentially get a little bit commission, and then I could still go after that. So that was kind of what she proposed to me, and I got so tempted by it. And also leading up the time before I left London, I met new people, and then I was like, oh, maybe this is a sign, or maybe I can still make London work for me in a different way. And I kept grasping at these little things that were offering me security, or that made me think, oh, maybe I want to stay. And how I got myself out of that was by questioning what is really the driving factor of that, And I think in the end, it was all fear-based, because I asked myself, okay, if it doesn't draw me to something, what's a definite no? And the definite no was, I didn't want to work at all in that job anymore, maybe maximum the next year, but after that, not at all, So I knew that was a strong feeling. That job is not fulfilling me. And then I was like, do I really need that extra money? Or what is that? Why do I think I need to? Why am I so tempted by this? And it was fear-based, just fear of letting go. That was what drove me. And I think most of our decisions are based on fear. And I think if we can figure that out, I don't want to be just driven with my life decisions based on fear. That's not who I want to be. So for me, it just in that moment was so clear, once I figured that out, to go away and do it, and kind of just thinking, okay, what's the worst that could happen, right? I go through a lot of organization. I got a lot of things for this traveling. I put everything into storage. I sold my furniture. I sold clothes. I sold loads of things, and okay, that's a lot of effort, but if I want to, I can. If I don't like it, that's what I said to myself. If I don't like it, I go back. You know, what's the worst that can happen? And so I think when we ask ourselves those kind of questions, and we thought things through like that, then we can have the confidence in ourselves to trust our own decision. And that's probably what I meant with confidence. To have that kind of, to know that you looked at it from different angles. And I think the other side is not what's the worst that can happen, well, that too, but what am I gaining from that, you know? And for me, with this decision to leave and to try this new thing on my own, everything, you know, scary, but I just, for me, really, it was being just proud of myself for not giving in to my fears. Like, that's something that I gained already. No matter if I return home today or yesterday, whatever, like, if I would have just lasted 2 weeks, like, I would have done it, you know? I wouldn't have dreamt of it or, just had it in my head as a fantasy. I think the worst we can do is to get stuck, and I was stuck for a long time, and there's a little bit of like something, I was like, oh, I wish I would have been brave enough earlier a little bit, but like, again, I'm going back to the no regrets. I wasn't ready earlier. I needed that process to go through and really detach myself, and I think the suffering of that decision, it was also preparation for now, and I think I'm getting better with letting things go quicker. Like, people you meet, everything when you're traveling is so much more instant. Like, you don't like a person, you don't hang out with them, you know, you don't really get stuck so much here because you can make much quicker decisions to move on. And but yeah, I think it's great. Yes, for me, I would say actually the gap year that I did after my school, when I was 19. So I had to actually channel that 19-year-old, I think you're a little bit lighter when you're that young, to kind of just go with it. I think the older you get, it gets a bit harder because you trade off more things, comfort or habits and things like that. But the best year of my life, I would still go back and say that was Australia, the year of traveling through Australia, because I had such a limited budget and I slept in cars and I had the most simple lifestyle. And I grew up so much, and I really learned my privilege in that year. You know, when you shower at the beach with cold water, or wash your food in the park at some random sink, like, these kind of experiences, they really just, they're different. And I wouldn't even change anything about that year. If I had more money, I don't think I would have had a better car or a bigger car, or would have stayed in hotels. Like, that was the pure freedom. And for me, freedom is so high, or is really part of who I am. I want to have a lot of freedom in my life, and that was the best year. And I think it's a little different. I think what changed here a little bit, I think there was a lot of sadness to come here, so there was maybe a little bit of an escapism too from my situation there, and I think maybe the first month here was also felt like a distraction from sadness. Since traveling to the north of Thailand, I really feel like this is so much more fulfilling in so many ways, that I feel much more embraced in the culture of the Thai people. This retreat has helped me also a lot to be part of the culture, and learning about Buddhism and in a country like this, and it changed from being a distraction from sadness. I feel like I've really had pure moments of happiness here. And I feel this is yeah, this is just opening my heart and my eyes and my mind. And it reminds me that life is really beautiful. And this is what I want to live for, is these moments in nature, even just driving the scooter and seeing left these huge old trees, and it just gives me so much joy. The simple things sometimes, like I've really, some of the most simple moments I had here, they were the moments of happiness. Yeah, sitting at the river, meditating, hearing the water in the background, things like that. Or I sat on a waterfall and I overlooked the whole island, and it just, these are just moments that fulfill me on such a deep level that, yeah, this is a gift to see all of this, and yeah, a privilege. But also, this is what I want to live for. I want to get to know this beautiful planet. Yeah, small impacts. I mean, yeah. You see the consequences of tourism when you scuba dive. Like, you can see the dive sites where there is a lot of diving. They're not as full and rich anymore as before, or you can see the overfishing in Thailand, in the Gulf of Thailand. Yeah, and of course, yeah, we I think there are good organizations, like where you can offset your carbon emissions, so you can donate money to plant trees, or to kind of counteract your impact. There are actually even some that take like a monthly fee. It comes out of your as a direct debit, and it bases on an average European, the emission rates on an average European, and yeah, so I think you can find different causes like that. For me also, I try to do good in the places that I was. So I volunteered for a dog shelter in Koh Tao, and I did like several beach cleaning sessions. It's not much, but I think all of us can at least look that we're not just, have a water filter, have a bottle, try to reduce plastic, or I think all of us can have tools to be, to travel better. Or not take part in the whale watching tour, or because you're disturbing the habitat of the whale. And I don't know, they're just different things. You have definitely power. You can see with the elephant sanctuaries in Thailand that most of them have crossed off the back riding, the riding on the elephants, because the demand was to go more eco-friendly about this. And so you can see how good decisions can influence, can make an impact. So I think traveling, yes, it's a double-sided sword. Yeah, it's good for you, and it can be really bad for the environment. But wherever you can, maybe don't pick planes. Travel with other ways. So small little things. If everyone would make those changes, it would be better.
Of course. Thank you.
Yeah, what can I think of? I think learning about yourself in whatever shape or form, whether you do that, I think that should be a goal. Getting to know yourself should be a goal for everyone. And I think we all have tools to change. I think sometimes we make ourselves very helpless and think we're surrendering some, like kind of the victim mentality. Be like, oh, poor me, like this is happening to me, I'm so unhappy in my job, all these things are happening to me, and we take the power away from ourselves. And I think one of the key things for me to learn was, like, I am responsible for my life, and I have the power to change it, you know. And no matter how scary or whatever it is, and I could have just moved to a different country, or I could have stayed there, changed jobs, like whatever it is. But if you're unhappy, don't waste your time so long to get stuck there and just complain. Like, realize that you have the power to change it, no matter how scary that is. And that could be small changes, you know, even just not seeing that friend anymore that makes you just unhappy, or changing the job if you are able to do that, or you're not. I lived in a very unhappy flat share, and I realized in hindsight I stuck with it way too long, you know. And it was, I realized how an important part that is, to be comfortable in your surrounding, have a good setup of your house and your space, and guard your energy and what you let in and what you put out. And but I think also to take responsibility of your emotions. I think it's so easy to say, this person upset me, and kind of blame the other person. But it's look what you can change in every aspect of your life. What are the changes that you can make, not another person? I think that was the key thing for me to learn. To not make other people responsible anymore for whatever happens to me, you know, or other bigger purposes, or
So true.
Yeah.
Maybe a book that you can advise to read.
Oh my God, there are so many books.
We can talk about a few of them.
Yeah. I think definitely the minimalism, actually it was called Essentialism, the book. I've forgotten the author's name, but Essentialism, that was a good read. I also really enjoyed, it was one of the deeper ones on the surface. It's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, by Mark Manson. It's great. It sounds a little slang and a little, you know, the first pages is a lot of fuck in there, but he actually has some really good words of wisdom in there as well, and it's a good book. Another book that I read at the same time, it was Women Don't Owe You Pretty. As you might expect, it's like a more feminism, but that was really good. Then there are a few, I think there are loads of books on inner child work. There's a book called The Child in You, where you can learn about the wounds that you carry with the unhealed wounds that happen in your childhood, which make you overly react to things that really, almost like you throw a tantrum yourself, you go back into that child mind thinking. Those always lead back to your childhood, so that's a good book. The Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents, bit of a long title, but that goes into different, also just maybe what your parents might have done not so perfect, and maybe that's leading back to your behavior now. I can give a whole list of recommendations. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Could you just look at the camera? 20 seconds. You can move a little if you want.
I don't think I can look anymore.
You can
look away?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
If you want.